Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. Welcome back. This is East Coast Adventures and the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we got two very special guests, both who have already been on the podcast previously, and they are our very first returning guests to the podcast. And the reason that they're both returning is they both just accomplished 100-mile races. Micah's very first 100-mile race that he talked about on his podcast. And then Chris Stayman, who set the state record and the course record at the Pistol Ultra. So he now holds the state record for Tennessee for the fastest time and beat the course record by over an hour, if I'm correct.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah,
absolutely.
Hour and 6 minutes.
Oh, look at that. Micah is a
We got mathematicians over here.
But, we're going to share some of their stories, and this is going to be a little different type of a podcast. We thought it would be really fun and interesting to see two different perspectives of, Micah's very first 100-miler to, Stayman's, who's ran multiple and just ran one of his fastest times yet. His fastest is still Hennepin, but Hennepin's probably not as hilly as the Pistol. So, it's very similar times if you look at it that way based on elevation. But I just thought it would be really fun. We thought it'd be good to get everybody on. And, Micah and Chris, please feel free to ask each other questions as well. Let's go ahead and jump in real quick to Chris's story. And Chris, tell us a little bit just about the Pistol, your preparation, the race. Let's talk about the race and then we'll ask some questions from there. But first off, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
You look solid all day. Obviously, East Coast Adventures was there running an aid station. Me, Micah, and Matt. Micah was there helping me set up that morning. And, Matt come that evening. And, we got to watch you throughout the whole day and even run a little bit with you. Just a solid run, man. Just absolutely amazing. But, yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on again. Thank you for all that. And if I look solid, that's probably because y'all were taking such good care of me all day long. Because you guys did. You took great care of me. It was a good day out there. Do you want me to go first? The build up for it, or?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like your preparation going into the race and what your plan was.
Gosh. So since we talked last, we talked right around, it was after Hennepin time frame, right?
Yep. Yeah. We knew at that point you were on the Sour Patch Kid diet.
Yep.
And
True.
donuts and obviously Brewster's. So, but yeah, you've had some solid races since then. You did, we talked on Hennepin, but then you did No Business. What else did you squeeze in there? You did in the Backyard Ultra and you won it, Barn Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I did. Yeah, so it was like 2 weeks apart. So No Business was just under 2 weeks after Hennepin. And then that one, I went out a little too strong. Felt good until it didn't, blew up. You were well aware. It was good though. It was a good experience. Had a good time. Enjoyed the solitary time at night, moving through the night. So did that one, and then 2 weeks after, I guess in between that, I did the Cross Knox, so at 15K, that little race. That was just a recovery one. And then I did Barn Creek, and what did we do? How many laps was that? How many yards was that? 29, I think. 29?
Yeah, you were. I think you were over 130 miles, weren't you?
Right around 130. Yeah, so that was after that. And then, so after Hennepin, I'd qualified for Solstice in terms of time, and I really wanted to do Solstice. And also concurrent to that, I helped pace Daniel, so I ran 50 miles of his 100 with him in between, right after Barn Creek, I think the week after, 2 weeks after.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then, so I was trying to cram it in. I was trying to squeeze Solstice in. I was going to try to fly out and do it. And so I had like a little mini, they're real smart, like a little mini peak around Thanksgiving. So I ran like 20 something on the track on Thanksgiving. And then Black Friday, I ran 20 something. And then that Saturday, it was around 20 something that I ran. And then I got, what niggle did I get? It was my shin. It was kind of started to develop in Barn Creek. So I got a little niggle there, kind of put me out for a while. So that killed Solstice for me. So that was kind of the first part of that, I guess if you want to call that the first part of the build up for Pistol. Kind of recovering from that. So it was a slow start to the new year after that.
What did training look like for the Pistol? Were you focused more on mileage or speed training?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Similar to what I did before. I did 2-a-days most of the week. So Monday through Friday on work days, I do I'd say ballpark on average, 8 to 10 miles before work, maybe 4 or 5, either midday or late day. And then I had a couple, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I did some doubles there. I did some speed work, some strides, different types of speed work. That was also around the time of all the snow too, so I had to work that in a little bit. So there was some snowy running, some running on the road. At one point where I was running down Cedar Bluff because the sidewalks were all snowed over, and I thought it was like a black ice or something. And I go to about right on top of it, and I realize there's a skunk in the middle of the road. It's alive, and so like I literally scream as I jump over the skunk. And I swear he looked up at me like the whites of his eyes. I could see him, and yeah. So that's
he didn't get lit up.
What's that?
Lucky you didn't get sprayed.
I know, man. So lucky.
Well, when your speed work is 5-minute miles,
you're right.
You're
He was
quick.
too fast for the skunk.
What I did, I jumped right over him. I mean, I could have, if I shifted my weight, I could have landed down on top of him. There's no doubt. It was like that close. So that was, so some of the speed work in there was just what I could squeeze in. There are points where I was just running down the median on Middlebrook because it was so snowy. I'd be dodging cars because Middlebrook was pretty clear. But did that, and then as far as the weekend work, I did usually like a long run on Saturdays. I do a long run. I think the highest long run I did was maybe 32 miles on a Saturday. I ran to UT and then back, and got some Brewsters on the way home from that. But,
were you hitting 100-mile weeks up to?
I hit 100-mile weeks. I probably hit not as many as I wanted to because I was just bouncing back. So I want to say my peak mileage was maybe 116 between New Year's and Pistol, maybe like a 114-mile week somewhere in there. And then there were probably, I want to say 5 or so 100-mile weeks. And then, what happened there? So I kind of got a weird thing where like my calf kind of knotted up on me at one point. And so I had that little niggle pop up, had to kind of work through that. So I worked through that by just running trails, and then I tripped on like a tree root at Hot Ridge one morning running before work in the dark. And so I think that kind of stretched my hamstring a little funny, and then that ended up developing into a little hamstring, like a little strain behind my left knee. So I got that popped up, I want to say about 3.5 weeks before Pistol. And so that was kind of something I had to work through. So I did a lot of cross training. I think we talked about some of the cross training I did. I dropped down to 40 miles that one week, maybe 50 the next. One of my long runs I substituted out for a 4-hour mountain bike ride. Lots of elliptical time. I think I got up to 2 hours on the elliptical one day. But you just do what you can do. It's hard to get your heart rate up on the elliptical though. So I did that, and then it was touchy. I was really touchy. I didn't think there was. It was about 8 days before Pistol. Well, I cross trained a bunch, and I think mountain biking made it worse because but it was kind of too late when I realized that it made it worse. It was already there, So I want to say the Friday, so 8 days before Pistol, I went out for a run and I just felt like garbage, and my hamstring was just problematic. And I remember coming home. It was that Friday morning. I came home, told Mary, I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I think I might have to scrap this one. And she's like, really? And I just didn't want. I thought, I don't want to get hurt. But then, I just did. Finally, I think maybe it was Micah's podcast. That was part of it. I told my friend I was going to do it for him, and I remember I had that conversation with myself. The next day, I was just like thinking, dang, I told my friend I was going to do this for him. And then Micah's podcast where he's talking about them having to pull him from the course. And I thought, you know what? I told him I was going to do it. I told myself I was going to do it. All this stuff got dark, and I knew I had to do it regardless of how long. So there was a minute there right before the race. I thought, okay, this could go really bad. I could be out there as long as it's going to take and limping, and you know what I mean. Which might sound like BS, but that's kind of where I was in my headspace. But you know how it goes before a race. Sometimes you get a little dark, the little niggles pop up, and you start to kind of almost like phantom injuries. But it was for sure. But I think it was a little more amplified as the race approached too.
Well, you know, it's one of those where you spend so many hours and so many weeks, and I mean months, to be honest, preparing for one day. Mm-hmm. And that one day is like everything that you've put into this block of training for the last 3 months, you know, like it all is that day, and that puts pressure on anything that happens. So I mean, if you wake up in the middle of the night with a calf cramp, you feel like something tweaked in your foot or your leg or your hamstring, and you're like, I mean, your head just immediately goes to the worst spot ever. And from there, you're already talking to yourself like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this race. Oh, it's not going to go good. My day's not there. And it's really hard sometimes to get that out of your head. I mean, you know, you probably still went into the race not really knowing how you felt, but it's one of those where you kind of have to take the day as it is as well. And, you know, sometimes you have to be humble to get to know that. And that was, you know, we've all had that experience at some point in a race where we've been humbled and been like, whatever the day gives you at this point, you just kind of have to accept it. And, you know, if it's the best day ever, great. And to your race, Chris, you did have one of your best days ever. And it was just a solid effort. So the morning of the race, how was that going for you? Like, how did you feel?
Morning of the race. So I woke up, I felt rested, I felt ready. I kind of had that dialogue with myself, and I just locked it in. And it was like there were all these nerves, all this noise before, the days before. In the morning of it was just like calm, and I was just so calm. It was just like, okay, I'm ready. And that was kind of dialogue in my head at that point.
Do you have a pre-race ritual or a pre-race video or speech or anything that you do? Or do you just...
Yeah, so you know what? So yeah, thanks for refreshing me on that. Couple thoughts. I woke up, saw that text message you'd sent me. So that was some good positive words from you, my brother David. So yeah, that was awesome. Can't remember exactly what the words were. I've got it posted though. It's on a screenshot there. But basically about making the day mine and owning it. So yeah, as far as that was helpful for sure. Not really. I don't really have like a pre-race, like a day of thing. You sent me that video, and that was awesome about basically wanting it so bad, you know, so that old man dipping the guy's head in the water, right?
Yep.
And you gotta want it so bad that you gotta want it more than your desire to breathe after you're about to pass out. Dipped in the ocean. So
E.T. the hip hop preacher, man, that's an oldie but a goodie.
It's a good one, man. So yeah, I listened to that one as I was driving Pellissippi to the course. But yeah, man. Yeah, so no set pre-race ritual, but a lot of times I'll just kind of get in my space, get kind of quiet. And
how much caffeine do you take before the race?
What did I say I took before that race? What did I say I took? Did I do 8? I think I did 8 shots. 8 shots of heavy cream and honey. But that morning I woke up, 8 shots of espresso, heavy cream, honey, bag of Sour Patch Kids. That was breakfast.
Hang on. Define bag.
Big bag, little bag?
I weighed out 400 calories worth because I kind of had like a lap prepared. So I pre-weighed some.
He's got this. I can see Chris with like this little army man lineup of Sour Patch Kids, counting them out and just being like,
Hey, when I was up in Pigeon Forge over the weekend, I saw all these gummy bears and all these Sour Patch Kids, and I'm like, Stayman should just come here and get pounds and pounds of these things, and this would be great for his runs.
Yeah, you know I want those, man. They had all those too. They had like what the Albanese brand gummies.
Bad
Yeah,
everything.
Those are good.
yeah, there were some good ones. But yeah, so yeah, I
So
love those.
eight espresso shots with honey, and then 400 calories worth of Sour Patch Kids. So you're looking at probably what 700 calories right there.
Yeah, maybe somewhere in there, give or take.
700 calories, 700 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, I would say each espresso shot's at least 100 to 200, right?
Yeah, gosh, I haven't done the math recently, but yeah, I think so. Somewhere it was espresso shot, maybe 80. Yeah,
Yeah. So you probably had about 500 milligrams of caffeine, maybe 6.
yeah, somewhere in there. And then have like half a donut. Nick
It's
Morgan.
all about ratios, Stamen. You're like 50% calories, 50% caffeine, right?
Yeah, pretty much, man.
I'm gonna try that on my next race.
One
Just
to
do
one,
half
baby.
caffeine,
1 to 1.
half calories.
Yep, it's good. It's good for you.
Look, he's there.
There we go.
They got two of them.
I don't know if that amount of caffeine is advisable to the layman. I think that's a statement.
Yeah, yep.
That's a Stamen shot.
If I don't get it, I won't function right. So
So,
yeah.
so you get up, you do your coffee shots, you eat your Sour Patch Kids, you're like ready to roll at this point. Standing at the starting line for a race that you have such a huge, huge goal for.
Mm-hmm.
What's going through your head?
Gosh, I was just in the moment, really. I mean, I was just hanging out, talked to several people, hanging out, just in that moment. I really try to get really present when I'm racing. I really try to be in whatever moment's going on and just like not overthink things and just kind of. I was really focused on staying true to my word and what I was going to do, staying true to the belief that others had in me and the belief I have in my friend I told I'd run for. And I don't know, just kind of calm and just wanted to be happy all day. And that was kind of the intention I took into it.
What was your goal as far as the pace went? Were you I mean, I know you had to have something in the back of your mind to try to beat the record. So what was your target goal as far as pace goes?
Early in the build-up, I kind of had 13:35 in my head early in the build-up. And then as I got closer to the race, especially as I had that hamstring issue pop up and my fitness wasn't quite where I thought it could have been. As I got close to the race, I kind of felt like 14 was about where I wanted to be. In fact, I kind of had the lap times and the pacing written down for. I had one written down for 13:35, which I think was 8:10 per mile, and then 14 hours was right around 8.5 somewhere in there. Yeah, 8:35.
Yeah, you're like what 8:25 I think was your overall average pace.
Yep. Yeah, 8:30. Yeah, 8:24, 8:25 is what I averaged out to. Yeah. So
at any
hours is kind of where I was at. That's where I was thinking.
You killed it. I mean, you just about went under it, like right there at it. You're 14. What was he? 14:01.
Yeah, 14:01:32 somewhere in there.
Yeah. So, at any point in this race, did you have doubt? Was there any point in the race where it kind of got dark and you were struggling?
No, not at all. No. No darkness at all. I mean, I felt the little waves. I just didn't let anything into my.
You were out there long enough to get dark. You finished too damn fast.
Yeah.
This is valid. The only time I ever even seen Chris like break focus, like as far as like in his stride, was when he turned around and looked at me and said, "I need protein."
I remember.
You said, what does that even mean?
and I immediately call and I'm like, "Go get Stayman some protein."
Like whey protein, yeah. Get me in. I had some whey down at my toe. I had some whey protein in a bottle down at my toe, but I didn't,
Yeah.
fumble it with it. I wasn't going to. So, yeah, I had about 100 grams of protein in that. But so thank you for that. That really
Oh
helped.
yeah.
But
What was it like? What was it like getting to run with? Was his name Brian?
yeah, with Brian. Hmm.
How was that in the beginning of the race? Because you all were both on. I mean, here's the honest truth: you both broke the course record.
Yeah,
You
a
both
couple.
broke the state record. You obviously went faster than him, but you
Yeah,
both did it.
Mm-hmm.
You both hit your goals, and you ran almost half the race with him. That's pretty dang awesome.
we did. Yeah, it was really awesome, especially like a couple 242-year-olds rolling into this race. And I
Oh,
knew like
you
when
all
you
were the same age?
yeah 42.
Oh,
Yep,
that's even better. That's cool.
even better. Yeah. And so, like, you can tell when you look at somebody if they're fit, they're fast, right? I saw him before the race had started, and I was like, okay, this dude's serious. I knew Brian was serious just looking at him. And I mean, the USA singlet didn't hurt either. The Team
Nope.
USA qualified for the 100K distance, right? So, but yeah, so I didn't know him, and we just said hi at the start in the tent just before. I think it was raining. We're hanging out in the tent. I remember talking to him a little bit before that, and then we kind of went out together and just kind of had a really good conversation. We just kind of clicked, and it was really interesting because like if I'm racing, a lot of times I'll just tune everything out. I just want to focus on running. Like I want to listen to my body. Um, but for whatever reason, we just started talking, and so you'd see. I mean, if you look at pictures of us, we're just kind of mid conversation. There's points where I'm like kind of looking down, listening to him, or he's talking, and we had a really good, solid connection, and it was just like got to know each other out there, and we started just sharing stories, really unique stories. And I mean, I'm 7 miles into it, and I'm like tearing up with this guy I haven't even met. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like just early in an ultra to be getting all emotional, but hey,
It might have been the espresso.
it might have been the espresso. It could
He's
have
so
been.
jacked up, emotions going everywhere.
Yeah. No, it was just like we really clicked. There was a good solid connection there, and I mean, it was like, hey, because I knew he wanted the course record. We talked about me wanting it too, and it was just like, hey, man, whatever happens out here, I've got your back. Like, I want to see you do it. If you have a good day, cool. If I have a good day, cool. Let's just help each other out and carry through. And so we kind of talked about holding together for the first 50, 60 miles, and that's what we did for most of that time period, And so it was just solid, run through the rain together. And there'd be points, we just having a really solid conversation. It was
Well, and I
hard
mean,
to.
at one point, I guess it was around mile 50 or 60, you started to slowly pull away from
Mm-hmm.
him. But
Mm-hmm.
the honest truth is he never quit.
No.
Like he was just moving a
Oh,
little bit slower. His pace was still solid. I mean, he still finished in like 1440 ish, I believe was his time.
14:37:13.
Look at that.
He's on top of it.
Man, photographic
I,
memory.
yeah. He was
So, I mean,
solid.
that's-
I knew that he was there, and if I let up at all, I knew he'd catch me. Because it doesn't take much to break that. You know what I mean? I think at one point, obviously later on in the race, I had a bigger lead than that. But you got a 20-minute lead, you can lose that really quick.
Yeah.
20 minutes is not a lot in 100 miles.
Mm-mm.
20
Yeah.
minutes is a lot in a marathon, but in
Yeah.
100 miles, 20 minutes is nothing.
Yeah,
It's mid station.
It's one messed up aid station or one porta potty break too long. Is all that is,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
And you don't know when they're gonna pop up.
Damon, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you believe that if there was somebody in front of you like there was at Hennepin that you could have run faster? Do you think he could have pulled you along?
Gosh, maybe. It's possible.
I would say yes.
How much did that guy at Hennepin pull you to do what you were able to do at Hennepin? Yeah.
How much did
How
Taggart
much
pull?
were you chasing him?
Oh gosh, I was kind of running my own. Honestly, there was a guy behind me at Hennepin for a while, and I was trying to build a lead for a lot of the race, pull ahead of him, and I didn't really think. There was a point where I thought I saw Taggart at Hennepin, like way up the road or way up the trail, but it wasn't. So he pulled me some. Yeah, he pulled me some for sure. I didn't know that I could. I didn't think I could have caught it. I didn't think it was in the cards to catch him, but you never know. I think it's a different perspective when you're being chased versus chasing somebody. You know what I mean? It's hard to know what someone else has going on in their head when you can't see them too. And I heard later in the race, I heard that me and Taggart were he wasn't putting distance on me, but yeah, I knew he was having problems keeping food down too. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Each race is so different.
The reason that I say that is because when I paced Stayman to the end, he could have ran harder.
Yeah.
He had plenty in the tank.
Huh?
You had plenty in the tank. Because at one point I looked at him and I said, he said, I'd really like to go under 14 hours. I was like, dude, all you got to do is run under an 8 and we can do it. And we were running, some uphills and stuff would be like 8:30s, downhills and stuff. We were in the 7:40s. And he was fine. And, and I was like, if you want to, we can roll and I will hold that pace for you. Just follow me. But is it worth it to you? Because like you've been running this pace now for 95 miles. Is it going to strain something? Are you going to take a chance of hurting? He's like, we talked for a minute. And he's like, yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at. So let's just keep it here. And that's kind of what we did. And I mean, he nailed it, but you obviously could have went harder if you wanted, Chris. Now, I don't know what that would have ended up if you would have heard anything or not, but you were just, I mean, you did a very good job of pacing yourself the whole day so that you could have done that. So, kudos to you for that. You never at one point like ran beyond your means of what your plan was. And that's where a lot of us just completely screw up is like, we think we're going to make up time at some point, but you just held true to your goal and what you were doing. And, you were just rock solid all day. You knew what your plan was and you executed it really well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just worked out that way. It was really, really good. But yeah. Gosh.
At what point did you realize you were going to do it?
I want to say around mile 60 or so. I mean,
what was like that feeling?
Happened. What's that?
What was that feeling?
Man, there's always a little pressure in the back of your head. You got to hold on, right? And so there was a point where, like, I was pushing those miles, and you can't think about like having 40 miles left. You know what I mean? And so there's this point I remember running, and it was like, I knew Brian was back there, and I knew I had to hold that pace, and so it was just trying to click those 8.5 minute miles off, more or less, And there was a point where I almost felt like I was like a jockey riding a horse, where I was just kind of pushing, and it was just like a constant push, How'd it feel though? Yeah, I mean, I never bank on it until the very end. You know how it is. Even Fort Frenzy, we're talking about that, where like, you remember you telling me like, hey man, you got it. Like, there's no doubt you got 100 miles. Like, I don't know, man. And then So it felt good, but it was like there's a lot of work to do. As I realized that too. Yeah.
Well, to your point, that is 100% accurate. Like, you can be having the best race of your life at mile 60, and at mile 80, you can be puking on the side of the road and get a DNF. I mean, that's just the nature of these distances and how quickly things can go bad. And it's me and you've said it before. I think we were talking about this a week or two ago. The Rob Apple to this day still says, if I finish. And, he's done 800 of them now, like that's.
He came strolling into the aid station at the Pistol, and somebody asked him, he said, how many would this be? And he goes, if I finish, it will be 800. I think it's 801.
Yeah, 801 or 2.
And he, he has stayed true to that. If I finish, or when I finish, or whatever he says, but it's not guaranteed. It's always if.
He was out there all day long. He's smiling every time I saw him.
He came in taking videos and pictures and everything.
Yeah.
So as you got further into the race, you obviously had some pacers ready for you. I don't know who all paced you, but I do know that Emmanuel paced you.
Well, I know there was a famous character out there pacing him.
We had Flash.
The Flash.
Emmanuel, a.k.a. The Flash.
Competition.
I think, did Brandon run some with you too?
Yeah. Spent some time with Brandon and Micah. Yeah. We saw
Yep.
you all. Well, Brandon ran. Were you with us, Micah? I forget. You ran a
Yeah,
little
you
bit.
passed me. You were a little bit faster than me. You picked
Yeah.
up Brandon. You picked
High
up
five.
Brandon about. You picked up Brandon about 88
88
as you
somewhere.
were coming back towards the aid station.
I remember
And then,
running up my favorite section along that pond there, or out by the library,
Mm-hmm.
climbing that hill. And I remember, yeah, running with Brandon and Mary is pushing me. I was letting up on the pace a little bit, and she's giving me a hard time. Like, come on, don't let up. Like,
Poor Brandon's back
get
there
up.
struggling to keep up with him.
Oh, easy
well,
now.
and Mary told me she was pushing you, and that's one of the reasons. Whenever I said Mary told me she was pushing you, and that was one of the reasons when I got beside you, I just kind of tried to hold right around an 8 because I knew that was what you were shooting for. But she said that y'all were getting down in the 740s on some of them. She was saying, "Come on, Chris, let's go."
So while she was pacing you, she was trying to call David when he was going to step in to pace you, but he didn't have his phone or whatever. So she calls me and she said, "Hey, we're about 2.5 miles out or whatever." I said, "Okay, great." And then we were sitting there talking. We were like, David goes, "I wonder what kind of pace he's running, because we just ran the marathon the week before and blah, blah, blah." And then as we were talking about it, she texted, she's like, "Hey, we're running high sevens." And I went over there like, "Hey, he's running high sevens." And he was like, "Let's go. Here we go." And here he came in just about, 20 minutes later.
Yep. I was a little concerned just because I didn't know how my body was after the marathon. I mean, that was literally my first run. But it was fun. I mean, nothing hurt. I felt great, and I only had to run like 5 miles. So.
I know Mary thought you had to run 10 miles because she goes, "How would your body be, Matt? How would you be if you had to run 10 miles right now?" I'm like, "Well, I'd do it. Like if I had to do it." And then later, like, "Oh, it's only 5 miles to the finish line. He's good."
I think Chris planned that for me. He knew I just ran a marathon. I think Chris had this planned in his head. So
I'm in my head. Yeah.
of course the flash left us.
He did.
Well, he is a streak of lightning.
Yeah, he was clearing the bugs out for us.
He's talking about some sort of binary antimatter stuff. Some sort of he was talking. Poof. Flash is over here.
Then he was talking to Chris about how he's going to come back and break the record.
Well, you got to do it one way or the other.
Manual was.
Yep.
He's fast. Running solid.
Competition. Gotta set the pace.
That's what he should change his name to on Instagram. Emmanuel the Competition Estrada.
Yeah, he needs a running singlet that says that.
Who was it? They called him the rabbit. Michael. Michael. They called him the rabbit.
Yeah.
What he was.
He was running fast, and yeah, it was fun watching people light up, seeing him run the course.
Oh, people came into the aid station and said, "Hey, can I have a selfie with you?"
Here's
selfies with the Flash.
Here's what's funny. As we're running that last lap, and Stayman's just he's just moving so well, and like everybody is high-fiving Emmanuel in the Flash, just talking to him, and we're like 4 miles from this man breaking the state record, and all they see is the Flash coming at him, and me and Chris are just laughing. We're like, Emmanuel's the life of the party.
He is.
Oh, they loved it too. Yeah, everyone loved it.
He came down when he first got there. He came down there holding pizza in his hand. I'm like, who's this? The pizza guy in a Flash costume? And I'm like, this is Emmanuel. And he's cracking up. He loved it.
Yeah, I think there was a conversation. I think it was someone messaged Mary and said, "There's a guy at the finish line in the Flash suit. We think his name's Emmanuel." And Mary's like, "Yeah, he's one of ours. Just send him down here." And they sent him.
Hey, he's pretty gutsy to show up at a race that he doesn't know in a Flash costume.
Well, and I think that's the very first race that Emmanuel's ever volunteered at. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, yeah, just popped out of nowhere up at the aid station up at Woody's and was like, "Hey, I'm running with you." Okay. Flash costume. Yeah. And I want to say he's the first pacer I've ever had. Ever. It was a Flash.
So, Chris, You got Brandon and Micah who pace you a little bit. Then you have Mary who runs a whole lap with you, and then me and Emmanuel finish with you. And I think Emmanuel ran a little bit with you in between there. But at the end of the day, your last few minutes, your last few miles, what was going through your head, and how did it feel to finally cross that finish line?
Oh man, it was just so much excitement. It was just so real. It was like there was so much. It was almost like there was a wall before this race, like a mental wall that I was pushing against. And I don't know what it was, but it felt just so surreal just to break through that and have you by my side, and Emmanuel by my side, and just like, man, it just meant a lot. It was really cool. Yeah, and just looking at pictures and just seeing everything, and just like all the high fives, and yeah, the high fives, the hugs, having my family there, just it was so crazy. I mean, yeah, it's one of those experiences. Yeah, it's hard to put to words, And people who weren't even there, say, it looked like we freaking were at the Super Bowl with all the camera flashes on you, and just the whole day, like the support everybody had, and so just the vibe out there. Everyone on that course lifted me up, and we all lifted each other up, I think, and man, it was just a magic day. Man, I don't know what to say other than that. It just felt really incredible for sure.
Well, I mean, you said it perfectly. And, that's the good thing. And the most amazing thing is this community. Like, you said it perfect. Like, just the energy, having your family and everybody there at the finish line with you, crossing the finish line with some of your friends, and your friends out there pacing you, and the camaraderie that is in this area, and just in ultra running period. But we're pretty blessed with this region and the people that are involved, and the race directors. There's just some really good ones. And
Yeah,
I mean, even with the talent, I mean, there's a pretty long list of talented athletes around here too, you being one of those, Chris. And I mean, it's awesome to see how humbling and kind people are on the track, whether you're the slowest runner or the fastest runner. And I think that's one of the most important things, important lesson that anybody can take away from this community, is that, you may not always feel like you belong somewhere, but come to one of these races, and you'll feel like you belong.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of race directors, for sure, I mean, first year with Brian and Shelly and Gordon taking over, right? So, and just like really cool vibe, really good culture, really good, just the support and just the love and the excitement that I felt from them, and just it was just awesome in that community.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Stayman, like, kudos to you for such a huge accomplishment, and thank you for being the type of runner you are, where you share kindness, you give credit, you are a very humbled and genuine person when you're out there on the course, just like when you are in not running. And that's what I think is the character that people need to see and understand, and truly realize, is that, like, when you come out to this community, it's so easy to be a part of it, whether you're a runner or not. If you're not a runner, come volunteer and be a part of it, and you will get to see people doing amazing things. Whether it's their first 100-miler, which we're about to get to here in just a minute, or it's breaking a course record, you will get to see people push themselves beyond things that they thought were, at one moment unreachable, and not even a goal that they've ever even thought about. And then to actually break that barrier and see the emotion on their face when they cross the finish line. And just like yours, Chris, like, when you cross the finish line, like, that's the picture we used on this podcast title, like or the show, the episode is like you just screaming and happy and excited, because that last 3 months of work all came together in one day. And man, that doesn't happen very often, and that's magical.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to see, and kudos for everything that you put the time in and you executed the race perfectly. And I hope that record stands for a really long time.
I do too.
I don't hope it stands. We're gonna break that shit again next year.
Yeah, no pressure, Micah.
Let's hope that Stayman keeps the record for a very long time.
You made some claims before it, so no pressure, huh?
Well, Sammy,
I'm your biggest cheerleader, man.
I got one last question for you, and then we'll switch over to Micah. And then I'm sure, I don't know if Matt has questions or not at the end.
Oh yeah, we got lots of questions.
Good deal. But one question for you, Chris, and that was, what was your why in this race? Like, did you have something that was your focus and that was going to drive you and keep you going?
Yeah, so I struggled. I mean, I struggled going into it. Like I said, I really had this wall in my head, and I couldn't find my why. And then I had my friend who he tried to take his own life, and I have a lot of hope and love for this guy, and it was just like I believe in him so much, that in his future so much, it just tore me apart to hear that. And I told him before this, I'm like, I'm going to run this for like how much I believe in you. And it kind of sounds like, I don't know if it sounds cheap or whatever. I was like, I want to run a race for you, but I just wanted to do it. And then, so that's what really like pissed me off. Like when I was in my car thinking, am I going to like really do this? Like, screw this. No, I said I'd do it for him. And like, no matter what, it's even better if I hit up some walls and if I destroy my hamstring and, you know what I mean? All the dark thoughts that go in your head. So my why was for him, and then it was kind of like the echoing or the ripples of everything, like the belief from others that others had in me. It was kind of like all the noise and the chaos going into this race. I just felt like the belief in him rippling outward, and then like say Micah's belief in me rippling toward me, and your belief and everyone else. It's just like I think in community we all collectively believe in and support each other, lift each other up, and that's kind of what it came down to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I hate to hear that about your friend, but I think that's just amazing for that being your why, and that did you tell him that you were doing that race for him?
Yeah, I did, and then and I told him, and I believe this with all my heart. Like I believe in him more now than ever, even in spite of that. And like I just felt like that day there were some things that was just like clicked, and I don't know if like God winks or what, but I was where I needed to be, and that was the reason to be there, and it just felt right. I'd say that.
Have you talked to him since?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, and it's been really good. So,
well, you know what the next step is, right?
What's that?
Bring him to this community.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he doesn't have to run. He just needs to come hang out.
Come hang out, volunteer at the very least. Maybe he'd want to run too.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think he'd be game for that.
Absolutely, we'd love to have him.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you for sharing that, and we'll keep your friend in our thoughts and prayers for sure.
Thank you. As will I. And Thank you.
Micah Morgan.
Who dat?
Let's talk about your experience as your very first 100-miler. So, you know, your longest race to date was the dirt circuit. So you went slightly over 90 miles in 24 hours. And
92.8. You got to count all of them, man. You earned every second of that.
He is a mile counter. He knows the miles.
I think Micah has a post-it stuck on his phone, and he's literally reading
miles. This is what we did. This is what they did. How many did Josh Laker run? You got that memorized?
126.
There we go.
Yep, he's right there at it.
And then the other guy went 108, I think.
This is George.
Well, let's talk about, so what 100-miler did you do?
It was the inaugural year of Campcroft. It's run by a group called Mountaineer Rumble. Chris Waddle out of He does a lot of races in upstate South Carolina, but he's out of Kings Mountain, North Carolina.
Okay. And that's a loop course?
It's a 10-mile loop course, yeah.
Okay. So what was your training like for this race, considering that you've not done a 100-miler, and you hadn't done a long distance, I guess, really since dirt circuit, right? You've done some shorter stuff?
Yeah. So did dirt circuit and came up hobbled. Well, no, dirt circuit was fine. Came through that. And that kind of training started really the day after dirt circuit. Got really excited. When I went into dirt circuit, I didn't have any plans of running 100 miles. That wasn't on my radar for a little while, at least for a couple of years till my girls got a little bit older. And then after that, I realized, okay, well, maybe I can actually do this. And so I did Barn Creek first week in November, and came up hobbled. And when I came up hobbled, I thought it was a knee issue. After some guidance from Coach Mary Cates, learned out it was a muscle deficiency, just poor strength training. So it was after that I really, I took about a month off between November and December, just trying to figure out my knee, just trying to figure out where I was, what I needed to do. Took a couple weeks off to start running again. As soon as I started running, it hurt again. And so I was really struggling with that, emotionally struggling, mentally struggling. It was a hard thing not to be running during that time. And then really connected with Mary in April, Lord have mercy, in December. I think it was probably Run for Hunt. I'd already started talking to her, getting some advice from her and stuff. And I think it was Run for Hunt. We were out there running out on Eureka, and she said something to me, and it really kind of clicked. And I was like, oh, this chick knows what she's freaking talking about. I probably should listen to her. And so she was gracious enough to start coaching me at that point. And so from there, the focus was obviously on Kent Croft. I had picked that out at that point. And the goal for Kent Croft was real simple: be in good shape to not get injured and to complete it. So going in, so the whole process was obviously a lot of long runs, tempo runs, not any speed work, long runs, tempo runs, long tempo runs, and then really pretty standard. Not getting much over 60 miles a week. Didn't have a week where I did over 60 unless it was a race week. I raced one time. I raced Gone Loco, and then was it Gone Loco first? I think it was Big Ridge first. Was Big Ridge before Gone Loco or after?
I think it was after.
I think it's after.
Okay.
I think
So it was a week after. So I did Gone Loco and felt really good at Gone Loco, and decided to go try to get another long run the following weekend, and went out to Big Ridge, and talk about a smack in the face. It's really pretty hilly out there, guys. Like it's not Gone Loco by any means. And then ended up getting about 27 out there on the day, just long running it. And from there, I had a couple other long runs, but the weeks were easily 60 miles a week, strength training 2 or 3 times a week, a little bit of cross training every once in a while. When the weather got really bad, actually, that was probably my favorite week of training, when the snow was out and the ice. You work some damn muscles that you never ever get a chance to work.
Oh yeah, those stabilizer muscles get worked
I love
hard.
how this entire group shake their head yes at the same time.
Hey, it was like an adventure out there in like the snowy wonderland.
You never know when you're going to slide off the mountain. Luckily, we didn't do any of that. We were out in the city running down the Tennessee River.
Well, except for Chris. Chris is running down the interstate. Yeah, I was going to say, Chris run down the interstate jumping over skunks.
Yeah. Well, it's probably better than where I was. I was on the Greenway where they didn't have anything. It was like
That's about how my
6 inches deep.
that's how the road I was running on felt. It was like they scraped some of it, and everywhere I could run, it was just like deeper than what it was actually on the road. So
Yeah. So yeah, I did that. It was, I think the most beneficial thing for me, I think, coming out of all of the training was, one, the experiences and the relationship I developed with Brandon Johnson. He did, I would say, 75% of my training I did with him every week. It was a really awesome thing to, I think it was early on. I think it was at Barn Creek running with him where he said, let's go get you that buckle. What do we need to do? And kind of jumped on board the whole process. All my long runs were with him. Spent a lot of time out there running. Just really developed a really good relationship. It was just a really fun, awesome experience running with him. That's my favorite part of the process. And the training, obviously, the race experiences. It's been a really good year. I mean, so far it's so early, but with East Coast Adventures, the community that's been developed there, the community with Brandon, who's obviously one of our teammates, and then Mary's great to work with. I mean, you guys know, obviously, she's phenomenal. Just such a good coach. Just so encouraging. I mean, you talk about running, but you also talk about life, and you talk about all the other things that don't necessarily fully correlate to running, but they do in so many ways. So, phenomenal. It's been phenomenal working with her. And so, coming into Campcroft, I think we started to taper a little bit. I think my last long run was actually at Pistol Creek. I went out for a 20-miler out there. And I had told Mary that I was going to wake up Saturday morning, drink all day, be extremely dehydrated, extremely tired, and feel like total garbage, and then go run 20 miles. And at least I accomplished my goal on that day. And I told her, I said, well, at least I'm out here doing it. And she goes, yep. So I do it, get it done with, and then I got really ill that night and into the next day. Sunday I couldn't talk. You guys remember?
Yeah, you lost your voice.
Completely.
You obviously ran yourself into the ground during that time too. You were exhausted. So,
is that me again? No. Good. All right. Heard the same.
No,
I seen
Stayman hit the mute button.
Stayman goes whoop.
That's my dog scratching his.
So,
I love it. So yeah, so you came that morning and helped me set everything up. You were there an hour before I was at the Pistol. Helped me set everything up. Then we crewed for a while, and then Marcia came too and helped for hours. So luckily, all three of us got everything rolling. But then me and you started drinking pretty early, and I was already encouraging shots with Nick and who was the other photographer? Jeez,
I don't know her name.
I can't think. Was it Emily? Is that it?
Sounds right. Emma or Emily, something like that.
Yeah. So I started taking shots with all them, and so like I suspect that you were probably dehydrated and probably even feeling pretty good at the time that you started actually doing your 20-mile run, because you had been up for a while and drinking for a while.
To be honest with you, I had already started getting the hangover feelings. I wanted to go to bed. I was actually rocking my daughter at 7:00 that night to put her to bed because I live like 3 minutes from Pistol. And I'm laying there in the chair and I'm going to sleep. And I remember standing up, putting her in the cage, in her cage, Putting her in her crib, walking out, looking at Morgan and saying, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. I called Brandon and I'm like, I'm on my way. As soon as I get there, we got to run or this isn't going to happen tonight. So it was definitely, but it was important for me to enjoy pistol. I didn't want to, so much of this community and this sport, and my experience with it at least, is the opportunity to give back and be a part of the community. And so I really just wanted to have fun and enjoy and be there for everybody, be there for Stayman, be there for all the runners on the course, have a good time, kind of set that environment and enjoy myself. And long run was going to happen regardless. I mean, whether I was sober or drunk or hungover or whatever it was going to be, it was going to happen. So as long as I get the miles in, right? So, it was important for me to do and enjoy the day. So I did. I paid the consequences of it. But so Pistol's 2 weeks ago. This is the third week since Pistol. So I got sick Saturday into Sunday. Went to the doctor Wednesday, got on antibiotics, and haven't honestly been able to kick it. It's kind of lingered. And mentally going into the weekend to Camp Croft, there were some things that popped up. Some personal stuff. Work has been one thing, but just really started to get to me mentally. Wasn't looking forward to it as much as I really wish I could be, because I was just kind of in my head, really anxious, really nervous, but also just not feeling well. And I just didn't want that to be an excuse. I didn't want that to be a reason for me not being successful. So I was lots of time in prayer and hope and pleading that I would just feel better. And unfortunately, it never came. I woke up Saturday morning just coughing and a lot of inflammation, and was really curious how the day would unfold. It was not a great way to start the race. I talked to everybody. I talked to Stayman the night before. I talked to Mary. I talked to you guys. I talked to everybody at East Coast and everybody on the thread. Lots of love and support and encouragement and just plethora of it from everybody, my family. And I kind of kept that close to my vest. I didn't want to speak it into existence. I had mentioned to Mary in our meeting the week of that I wasn't feeling 100%, that I wasn't, health-wise, I wasn't there. And so going in to Croft, I was the day of really, really anxious, really nervous. I just needed to get out there and knock some miles down. I told her the night before, I need to get out there and just knock some miles down. Just get some miles out of the way, fill this thing out, and get into it and get after it. So, Friday we roll up, set the tents up, get everything ready to go get something to eat. Starting to feel a little bit better. Go watch some inspirational YouTube. Following Barkley Marathons and the incredible things they're doing there, accomplishing there. Really inspiring stuff. And through this, I kind of settle into the day. It starts to rain, pouring down rain. We knew we were expecting rain. It was a couple inches. And so we get out there on Saturday, and for one, when you run 100 miles, you don't know what to expect for the first time. It's just a journey. It's such a journey. So me and so the plan was Brandon and I were both racing it, and Marcia Riggs was there. She said hi just a few minutes ago. Tell everybody hi for me. So hi, Marcia. So she was there crewing. Can't thank them enough. I mean, truly incredible the support they gave me that weekend. But we get out there, and to say that it felt like we got punched in the face is an understatement. I mean, it was significantly harder than we ever could have thought it was going to be. The elevation profile wasn't very bad. It was a remedial amount of elevation climb for the race, but the quality of the trail with the rain, the standing water, the placement of the standing water, made it just extremely slow and difficult. A lot of slogging through mud. Places where we had to go up over a ridge line in order to get around a downhill section of trail, right? So you have to go up to be able to go back down when you could have just gone down. Lots of that. Several places where you go up the ridge line and then just slide back into the mud. Lots of places like that. So very, very, very difficult and slow. So started out the first loop, and we were just going to go out and feel it out and see how we felt. Started the first loop, and about 2 or 3 miles in, I told Brandon, I said, I can't breathe. I'm having a really hard time breathing, and I started to get really fearful that the nightmares that I've been having for weeks are coming true. And he goes, I can't breathe either, so that made me feel a little bit better. So it's not just me out here struggling. So we pick it up just a little bit, not just pick it up a notch. Our goal was to try to stay slow, try to do a 10-mile loop in about 2 hours, try to keep it, be able to try to complete the thing under 24 was our goal. So we wanted to try to pace for 20. We get out there and do 2 loops, and the pictures after 2 loops are about what the pictures are after 10. It's just brutal. And it felt like we just got smacked in the face. I mean, that's the best way to put it. So we were really discouraged pretty early on. The plan was for us to run together the first 60, 70 miles. And then Brandon's a very strong runner. He's done several 100-milers, several backyards within the last year. He's a strong runner, much stronger than I am. And so the plan was for us to run 70 miles or so together and him to take off, go win the thing. And that's what our plan was going in, and we were all on board with that. So there was they kept going. The day took its toll. Could not eat enough, could not drink enough, could not consume enough liquid to stay hydrated. We were both extremely dehydrated the entire time. Really struggled with that, and just made a lot of little mistakes. Feet got beat up pretty good first couple loops, and made a decision not to address them, to just let it ride. Probably the best thing I could have done. If I had torn my socks off, torn my blisters, it would have just made it that much worse. So trying to get socks back on with open blisters isn't very fun either. So I let it ride, and that was probably a really good decision. Eventually the pain just kind of goes away. Believe it or not, it actually is true.
I don't know. Vol State, they never went away.
Well, that was 5 days, so a little different.
Okay.
I've learned when the pain goes away.
I'll never know.
I've learned when the pain goes away, it usually means that one of the blisters popped.
Take them off, pop them off, reapply salty bridges all over them, and you're good for a while, and then it comes back.
So, Micah, you said that it was really hard to stay hydrated, but it was raining. So was it just extremely humid there, or did it stop raining and get really hot?
It was not humid. I apologize. It was not raining. Saturday it was not raining, but it was about 90% humidity and about 70 degrees.
Okay.
Perfect weather.
Felt like a jungle.
Yeah.
So you were trying to take in fluids. You just couldn't take in enough to keep you hydrated, or? Do you have stomach problems?
I was fine. It got Brandon though.
Is that what got him stomach?
Yeah. He couldn't drink enough. He couldn't keep water down. So Brandon ended up dropping at 50.
Okay,
And
so stop there. Brandon drops at 50. This is your first 100-miler. Did that mess with you?
coming in, so between really 30 and 50, I started to have the inner dialogue of, why am I doing this? Is my why really my why? And if it's not, then what is? And I remember coming into 50, I think the 40 or the 50th, it all blends together and you forget really fast. And my language was, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't fun. I never want to do this again. And Marcia, in her wisdom, texts Mary, and Mary's response was, as I'm sitting there eating something, you're right, you don't have to do it ever again, but you have to do it now. And so that got me out of my chair and kind of on a journey for a couple of hours of, why am I doing this? Where, what's going to keep me going tonight? Why am I here? And so I really kind of went on a journey of gratitude. I went on a journey of thinking about all the sacrifices that I've made this last 6 months training for this. The impact of the people in my life, the trail running people, East Coast Adventure people, the encouragement, all of that. The promises I made to all of you all, promises I made publicly on a stupid podcast about not quitting unless you pull me off the damn trail.
But hey, also to that point though, that podcast motivated Chris Stayman.
Yeah.
So think about that. Like, I mean, you can say what you want, but like even what you said during that podcast, you may have just been talking, but you meant it when you said it. Like they're going to have to pull you off that course. And when you said that, that's exactly what Stayman needed to hear that day. So, like it's important that you do find your why, and that when you find a reason to do something that, it's true to something that you believe in, and that you're going to push towards that goal. Because to your point, like when you're standing in the middle of a race at mile 50, questioning why you're doing it, we've all been there.
Yep, definitely.
And that's when you truly learn that, yeah, I'm not doing this for the right reasons, or I only thought I had the right why, or I thought I was doing this for this reason, but now I've truly learned that it's for this. And you need that. Like you need that moment to be humbled, to realize that this is a journey that I wasn't expecting to go on. And, as much as it's painful and it hurts to go on that journey, man, it is so rewarding. It truly is. And I know you probably quit that race 48 times in your head, but what did you finally figure out? Like, why?
I don't think I ever got to the point of saying I want to quit. Definitely was at a place.
That's great.
Definitely was at a place where I don't want to do this anymore. And definitely at a place I don't think I ever want to do this again. But I never said I'm done or I quit. And the reason is, it's because of all these things we just talked about. I had made promises. I had made commitments. I made promises to my family. I had made promises and made investments, and I needed to live up to that. And I needed to live up to the fact that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Do my girls care if I run 100 miles? No, they don't care. Do they care that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it? You better damn believe it. Exactly. They care. And so it was really, it was really a time and opportunity for me to explore all the things I have to be grateful for in running in the community and in my family, and just the commitment. My sister had showed up at one point. She's from the area, and she actually almost hit me. I was crossing the road right in front of the finish line, start line, and she literally almost hit me. I literally had to jump out of the way. And then she rolls down her window. I'm like, why are you driving so damn fast? Slow down. But she didn't have to come out there, and I talked to her and waved at the kids and took back off. But she goes, when are you going to be back? And I said, 2 or 3 hours. Don't you dare wait for me. And I just, I was gone. There wasn't time for that. So, but it took me 48 hours after the race finished for me to really realize emotionally how much impactful that one situation was to the outcome of the race, just mentally. Just for the next 2 hours, I thought about it constantly. Just her effort to show up, and it was pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, I will definitely say I was never at a place that I'm going to quit. I want to quit or I'm going to quit. It was always at a place of, this is really hard. I'm really tired. I've just got to figure out how to keep going, how to keep my head in it. And a great help with that. I mean, Marcia was amazing in that, utilized her resources, talked to the right people, showed me the right things, kept out all the noise I didn't need to hear. It was amazing, amazing help from her. I owe her a lot for that experience. So when Brandon dropped, I had dropped him at one point, and was in the tent getting ready, or eating food, getting ready to go back out. And he comes in, and we have probably a 2-minute conversation. And I told myself I'm not going to dwell on this right now. I'm not going to continue to put myself in a place of thinking it's okay to quit. I need to go. I've got work to do. So I console Brandon and take off. So, and from there it was all downhill from there. And then the essence of, okay, I'm only halfway through this thing, but I know that only way I want to get through this thing is one lap at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I would switch to, I've got to see this damn hill 4 more times, I'd be like, oh, nope, one more time, one more lap at a time, just one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. That's the only way to do it. It truly is the only way to do it. You cannot break off huge chunks. You've got to try to compartmentalize it into small increments of time or steps or miles, however you need to do it, to just keep moving forward. It's critical. And funny enough,
that's a great point, because that's what Stayman was just talking about when even he was running at mile 60, is to think about 40 more miles. It's just too big.
Yeah.
It's just too much. There's too much that can change. So you kind of have to break it down into a loop, or into the next aid station, or into the next 5 minutes, or, and that's kind of where you have to stay and just kind of live. And it sounds like you found that and you did that as well. When you start thinking about the larger scope and trying to do 40 more miles, sometimes it's just too much and it overwhelms you and brings you back down to oh, this is still a lot.
Yeah. So after the 60th loop, I had recruited Marcia to come out with me, to try to help, just try to make sure I got through the night. I'm not used to night running. I've run through the night once. I found with this race and with dirt circuit, I don't battle fatigue very well yet. I think if I get faster, I'll deal with fatigue more. But in terms of tiredness, fatigue is fatigue, and then literal tiredness is 2 different things. So it's there was never a time during the entire night that I felt like I needed to sleep. Like I didn't feel that way. But going into the night when you're tired like that or just physically exhausted, you just never know how your body's going to react. You never know at what point you might crash. At least I'm thinking that way, right? So, I brought her out with me, and we were running and hiking and I was getting after it. And I looked back at her. I said, "Make sure you tell Mary I'm running these loops." And we got we got back, and it was the last loop too. We were out there, and in that last loop I was pushing it. I was doing fartleks out there, just trying to get the thing done. And I told Brandon the same thing. I said, make sure you tell David I didn't just walk this whole damn thing. Make sure you tell him I ran it. that was my thing with Barn Creek or with Dirt Circuit.
Yeah.
Last 40 miles, I walked the whole thing. I didn't run any of it, and I didn't make an effort to run any of it. It was walking the whole thing. Did not have that experience this time.
Well, what was really awesome for me was that I had to make literally no effort to follow your race because Marcia and Mary texted so much that they were just keeping me updated. And it was like every hour I had an update on Micah, and I was like, this is great. I don't even have to open my phone. It was like, this is awesome.
Give me another beer.
I think it was like 2 a.m, and me and Mary had laid down, and we were already laying down, and her phone went off again, and she's like, it's got to be Marcia. She's like getting her phone, and I was like, how's he doing? She's like, he's struggling a little bit, but he's doing fine. I was like, okay. But I mean, you put together a really well first 100-miler, and I mean, you finished second overall. Is that correct?
Correct.
Damn near finished first. You were like, what? How many minutes behind first place?
The last loop, he started out about 40. Here I am with numbers. By my calculations, he was about 40 minutes ahead of me. And he finished 3.5 minutes ahead of me.
Whoa.
It was a moment where he was off the top of a hill and looked down and saw me and took off. And I was at the bottom of the hill and did not see him, did not recognize that was who that was. And once I found out that he was the one that had finished, it was all in. I wasn't going to let anybody else catch me. It was a book to the finish. So it was nice to finish that way. Of course, as I start to, you've got to cross the road and then run up a small hill for like 100 feet, and then you cross the finish line. And as you're coming down you come down the hill and you got to cross the road and then go back up. As I'm coming down the hill, everybody's out there cheering or whatever. There's like 5 to 10 people out there cheering, and I'm running, and they're like, go, go, go. And I'm like, I look over and there's this car driving, and the car just keeps on going. So I have to like stop for the car and then wait for the car to pass and then run across. Everybody's like freaking out, like, why didn't you wait for the car? You can edit all that out, craziness. But it was just like, I'm okay. Like, the car can pass me. I don't want to be hit by the car before I cross the road.
Yeah.
So I just ran 100 miles. It was 105.47. So I need to take credit for all of those miles. That course was wrong. But yeah, got it done.
What was your thoughts and feelings when you finally crossed that finish line?
Last few miles was just a really reflection on the whole event, the whole experience. I think gratitude was the biggest one. It was the biggest feeling that I had. I was just so grateful that my body held up, that my illness didn't impact my ability to run out there. there's such a blur of emotions. I mean, there's not a hard race that I finished that I don't freaking cry after the end of it. I mean, you remember Matt was thinking I was going hysterical the way I was crossing the dirt circuit. He's like,
I
"What's
got
wrong
it.
with you?"
Captured all
Yeah,
those photos.
yeah,
No, I mean
yeah. It was
it's
the
a
same
huge.
way.
I'm gonna say it's a huge accomplishment, and well worth it, and you deserve to be able to express the emotion for that. And we all express it differently. So I mean, some of us hold it in, some of us scream and shout, some of
Yep.
us cry, some of us jump, some of us go grab a beer. So
Hey,
but
Mike, just wait till your little girls cross that finish line with you.
Yeah, I know.
It is rough.
Mm.
Remember Addie done that with me, and it was hard, like so hard to hold that back because they're seeing you do something so crazy. It's pretty awesome.
That's
yeah, and wait till they're out there running it with you.
Yep.
That's fun too. It's definitely fun. Um, so what was your lowest moment in the race?
Oh goodness. Probably about 40 or 50 when I was really just
Yeah.
evaluating why I was out there.
Okay. And did you ever find the answer to that question, or is that something you're still trying to figure out?
I think it's something I'm still trying to figure out. And I think one of the questions I ask myself is, and I still ask myself this question, um, is it really truly necessary for me to have run 100 miles for me to fully experience the sport? And I would say that with 100% certainty, there's nothing like a 100-miler. There's something so unique about that accomplishment and that challenge, regardless of whether you're the Flash like Stayman or you're slow like me. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's still 100 miles, and there's so much that goes into that and that process and that fear and that turmoil and the struggles before the race and the anxiety, and then the race. The race is such a small portion of all of it. There's so much that happens beforehand, and there's so much that happens afterwards. The race is a blip,
Mhm.
and it you you experience it, and it feels like in the moment of the race, it feels like it is the longest period of time and forever. And then after the race, it's like the smallest increment, and everything just rolls together. And it's so hard to decompact it and to work through the emotional component of it and the feelings and like process, um, process your why and what really motivates you. So no, I think my biggest question that I'm asking myself is what's next and why. Um, what's next for me and why do I want it to be next for me? Um, because I really, for me, I, I've I've accomplished so much in my journey so far, and I want to continue to compound upon that. But for me, I don't feel that. Um, I don't think that necessarily mileage is the answer for that. To just continuing to up the mileage, and for a lot of people, it is. It's the thing that continues to push them into the sport and bring them joy, and bring them fulfillment in the sport. And I think that if that's what's important, and that's what you need to do to find joy in the sport, then that's what you need to do. But there are a lot of people out there that can't run 100 milers, but that can just get just as much out of the sport as I can, or a Stayman can running 13-hour 100 milers, right? Like they can get so much out of the sport, and we as East Coast and as ultra runners, we want to push people to be successful. We
Yeah.
want to push them beyond themselves, and I think that there's such an emphasis, at least for the last year, on 100 milers, and that accomplishment, because it is such a huge accomplishment that I think the one thing that's amazing about East Coast is that we celebrate the 50Ks, we celebrate the Gone Locos, and we celebrate these races that for a lot of people are their 100-milers. And it, you know, that woman, that young lady that completed Gone Loco after her, experience with obesity and that accomplishment, she, probably had a very similar experience in that race than I had in my 100-mile race. Yes, it was less time, but she probably went through a lot more in terms of pain and struggle and self-doubt and all of these things, right? So, I think the 100-mile distance is a special distance because there's things you learn 100-mile that you can't, necessarily, for me personally, there's so much more I can learn in a 100-miler than I can learn in a 50K or 50-miler. But for other people, that doesn't always correlate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just don't want people in the sport to feel that they're not going to be fully fulfilled in the sport if they can't run a 100-miler.
Some people will never have the desire to run a 100-miler, and that's why East Coast Adventures does a 3-hour race. It's why we do different distances, because to your point, a 3-hour race to them is that 100-miler. Like they probably have never saw themselves running 3 hours, and to do a 3-hour race is phenomenal because some people don't care at all to run. Like we're different. I get it. Like we want to run long distances and we enjoy it, but most people don't. But most people do want to push themselves outside of their comfort zone and do something that's pretty amazing to them. And to them, that is their 100-miler. And we're there to celebrate that. And we see that. And you see the satisfaction and the emotion on their face when they cross the line after running 3 hours, just like I see when you cross the finish line at 100-miler.
Absolutely.
And
we should celebrate that just as fervently. And
absolutely.
You guys do. And that's why I love East Coast Adventures, because you guys celebrate that in a way that a lot of other organizations don't. It's amazing.
Well, every finish is important.
I want to interject there. You said you guys, and I want to say that you are out there. You're showing up early. You're doing potlucks before Barn Creek. That's what East Coast Adventures does.
Yes, all of us. Yep. We're one big family.
Definitely takes a whole group of us to do all this stuff.
I think there's about 400 of us now, really, to be honest. So.
Yeah. Because that's all I'm saying. Like, I just want to highlight the presence you have in the community, in the East Coast Adventures community.
Micah is a huge part of it. Chris, you're a huge part of it.
Yep.
We're honored to have you guys on the team and to have you as part of. I mean, me and Chris is trying to figure out a 100-mile race right now, so I've got him exploring roads in Knoxville. So it is such a team effort, and we don't do this to make a profit. We do this because of one reason. It's to help the community.
Yep.
And however we can help it, if it's raising money for somebody, or if it's helping someone do something that they never thought they could do. That is the two most important things we can do. And if you can choose anything in this world, choose to be kind. And this is how we're paying it back, and that is just truly the biggest reason that we started East Coast Adventures, is to help people do something that they never thought they could do, and to be a part of something that they feel like they can always belong in. And I hope everybody feels that. I hope everybody sees that. But going back to what Micah was talking about a minute ago, though, when you said it's a blip, that whole 100-mile experience at the end of the day is a blip.
It is.
And you have heard me say this so many times on this podcast. I just want to repeat it. And that is, whether you drop from the race or you finish the race, you wake up the next morning and you've already forgot 3/4 of everything you've experienced, all that terrible emotion that you thought your foot was falling off, or that all your toenails were gone and you're shaved so bad that you're not going to walk right for the next 6 years. Like all of that quickly goes away. And all that you start to remember is you finished and you pushed through it. And you did something that most of the world will probably never do.
Yep.
And to wake up that next morning and realize that is so huge, because in your next race, that stays in your head. And that truly stays in my head. Every race I've done at that point, I always tell myself, when the times get really hard and the times get really tough, I'm like, David, you're not going to remember this in a week.
Nope.
You're not going to remember any of this. You're not going to remember how much pain you've went through. You're not going to remember that your legs hurt. You're just going to remember whether or not you gave everything you had. Did I push myself to be better? And that's the same thing that someone's telling themselves in a 3-hour race. You know, you have to think about it like that. And that's it. Like, that's, some of these people have never ran a 5K, and they come out and run a 3-hour race, and an hour and a half in, they're done. And they may quit. But you know what? The next day they wake up and they think, I'm going to do that again next year, and I'm going to finish. And we've seen people do that, and they've come back multiple times throughout multiple years. We have the same people that come run our races, and they've worked their way up to a 12-hour race.
Yep.
They may not ever run a 24-hour, but man, their original goal was 3 hours, and now they're doing a 12-hour race. And I just think that's so amazing. And to hear you say that, Micah, you got to experience that. So what was your take on that after actually experiencing it? Like, did you feel like that was true? Do you remember at this point everything that you went through, or do you just remember that you pushed and that you gave it everything you had?
No, I took your word for it that I wouldn't remember it. I just heard it from you every damn week for the last couple months. So, no, and it's a memory that I look at the entire training block, the entire experience, the training, the race, these last few days, reflecting on the race, the reflection, and the race is just such a small piece of all of it. You would think it would be the whole thing, but it's such a small piece. And the lessons you learned, the lessons I learned, the exploration, self-exploration, the time I had in prayer, those are the things that I will remember. Those are the things that will have the most impact on me. And the buckle and the bib and the congratulations are just a symbol of that experience. It's a symbol of the culmination of that whole experience. The race just became the vehicle for all that to happen. The race just became the vehicle for self-exploration and really working to accomplish a goal. So yeah, no, I don't. I mean, it's all blending together to a point now where I'm just really grateful for, and that's, I have shared my race report many times with family, and a shortened version with Mary today, and because I wanted to get it all out there as fast as I could before I forgot it.
Well, and kudos to Mary too. Like, the message she gave you when you needed to hear that. When she told me what she had told Marcia, I was like, "That's perfect." I kind of laughed and I said, "That's perfect." When she said, "You're right, Micah. You don't ever have to do this again, but you have to do it today." That was well said at a perfect time, and I'm sure that probably hit you pretty hard when you heard that. Like, yeah, I've got to do it.
Yeah, I think looking back on the entire 27 hours, there's probably 3 key moments. My sister when Brandon quit, and that moment that were really critical, just mental game changers, that really gave me the push I needed just to get back out there and keep doing what I knew I needed to do. Yeah, that was profound and perfectly timed. I'm glad she was awake.
Yeah, that I don't know if that was a 2:00 message or not, but I will say you said something else that I have to ask Chris and Matt, because I have never ever thought about this question before until you said this. And we'll get to questions here in a minute, but I want to ask this question because to me it is 100% no different. And I wanted to get Matt and Chris's thoughts on this, but you said there's nothing like finishing a 100-miler to, to truly experience it. There's nothing like it. And that is a fair statement. That is very true. And it made me think, I didn't feel any different when I finished Vol State. I felt no different. It was still that same feeling as like when I finished 100-miler. There was no greater achievement. I didn't feel any like more achievement was accomplished by finishing that 300. It was still that same feeling to me. How did you all feel like for that 300-miler? Did you feel like that was a bigger accomplishment?
Well, I think during Vol State, just that distance, I thought it was pretty awesome. But with me finishing my first 100-miler, or I think I've done 2 now, or 3, or whatever I've done, I didn't feel much more different from a 100-miler to a 50K, because I know that I pushed everything I had during those races. Now during Vol State, I felt a little more like I'm a bad A, because I just ran 350 miles across the state of Tennessee, and that felt pretty cool. But to your point is that at every race that we do, I think that we're going to try to push ourselves to do the best that we can do. And the finish is the reward for doing that. So, I mean, maybe there's not that much difference in how you feel, but it feels pretty good when you actually finish.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, different for sure. Vol State, I mean, all the way across the state, right? Stepping foot and like not just across Tennessee, but going, like it's just a huge journey for sure. And I remember, I don't know if you guys felt that fear ahead of Ball State. Like I was like when you ride that bus and you see the white line, it's like it was legitimately scary thinking about like. I mean, do you have that feeling?
Oh yeah, you're looking over, you're like, you got this much to run in that white line before you're like smushed.
I've got 314 miles along this white line and seeing how.
Yeah, but I guess all I'm asking though is like when you finally touch the rock. Like, yeah, it was 300 miles and like it's scary as shit when you're on that bus and you're seeing these roads. But in all honesty, ask yourself, when you finish that race and you touch the rock, did you feel any more accomplishment than when you finished your first 100-miler? I didn't. I felt accomplished, but it didn't feel any bigger than a 100-miler to me. Yeah. I was super excited, but it was the same feeling of accomplishment to me.
I felt pretty amazing when I finally touched that rock.
That was the chafing.
That was a long 6 days right there.
I didn't do. I mean, there's a combination of feelings. It was like hatred for Laz. This is what I'm getting right here, It was that. It was like relief. I think it was just we were out there for so long. By the time we finished line, it was just like,
Yep.
The thing I remember when I finished was I sat down and Laz said, "Can I get you something to drink?" And he flips open this cooler. And I said, "Laz, I would love a beer." And he said, "Oh, we only got Yoo-Hoos." I'm like, "Well, then give me a Yoo-Hoo, Laz." But I was just interested to see what you all thought about
Yep.
that. And I got to agree with Chris. The bus ride is one of those where you sit there and you think, oh shit.
What do you
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
You were sleeping on that bus ride.
We were working. I was ordering hoodies and shirts for
we were
East Coast
working
Adventures.
on the bus ride, calling people, getting stuff set up for Fort Frenzy.
That was when we tried to buy stuff from Poland, and everything got stopped in customs.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I'm on the phone trying to get all that straightened out. It was just a mess. But
we did. I mean, we worked and then we slept.
Yeah. But to your point though, Micah, like whether it's a 100-miler or a 300-miler,
yeah,
there is a feeling of accomplishment
mm-hmm.
and a feeling of something that you've just done that is unimaginable. That is something that's kind of unexplainable until you do it.
Yeah.
Especially your first 100-miler when you're out there the entire night
mm-hmm.
and you're by yourself and you're going through the darkest places that you've ever experienced, and like as far as in that journey of your running career and your life. And I mean, honestly, like you're just out there and you're vulnerable and you're emotional and you're hurting and you're just trying to find a way to keep going. And that exposes you. So when you finally get to that point and you see that finish line, whether you cry or you jump for joy or you cheer or you run up and hug your wife or your girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
it's understandable because like that in that moment, they truly don't know what you've been through, and I mean, it is a journey of life in whether it's 13 hours or 26, 27 hours, it doesn't matter. It's the same journey. You still go through the same ups and downs. You do learn to push through it better
Mm-hmm.
as you do more. That's one thing I have learned is like used to that would happen at like 30 or 40 miles. Then the more I did, it would happen at 50, 60. Now it happens more at like 80 or 90. But you still go through it. You don't ever really get rid of that. You still have those moments in your head where you're like, you want to be happy, but at any moment shit can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Matt, I think now's a good time for questions. Unless, Micah, Chris, do you have any questions for Micah before we start questions?
Gosh, I mean, fresh off your first 100, like what advice would you give somebody who's out there thinking, oh, should I do 100? Can I? Or someone who's prepping for the first 100? What do you wish you knew? What any wisdom knowing what you know now, fresh?
Train properly. Don't get injured. Hire a coach. Do that well. Not strength train is critical. You got to physically be able to get through it before you can mentally get through it. So you've got to have your body right before you can go through the mental struggle. This is key.
Mm-hmm.
If your body falls apart halfway through, you'll never get there in your mind. So you got to be physically able to get through it in the first place. That's the biggest thing. Pick a good course. This is your first. It's like losing your virginity. You only get to do it once. You're right. Pick a good course. Pick one.
I love it.
How important is the why, though?
What's that?
Why? Finding that why and holding on to that why. How important did that carry you through?
The why really became instrumental in the race. My overall why is always, it impacts me every day. My desire to never be 350 pounds again impacts me every day. That'll never go away. That's how I stay alive. That's how I continue to be the best father that I can be, the best husband I can be, the best that I can be. So that never goes away. I will always keep pushing myself to the next thing because that's what I need to stay emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy.
Do you, do you ever feel that doubt? Do you ever feel like that version of yourself? Do you face that like looking at that heavier version of yourself, and just does that fill you with doubt ever? Is that like a demon you have to wrestle back
Oh,
sometimes?
yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing the things to fight against that, then absolutely.
Do you kind of see yourself as that person sometimes? Does that
Sometimes, every time, all the time.
all the time? Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that going into pistol, I had kind of a similar thing where I was thinking, okay, like chubby little chubby version of me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? It was just like it kind of still felt that little. You know what I mean? That voice.
Yeah, yeah,
That there's that image there. You know, and I was
yeah.
just kind of yeah. If you wrestled that back some too,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
or the feeling that you don't belong. And we kind of highlighted on that earlier in this conversation about just be everyone belonging at the Compton. You mentioned that. Do you ever feel like that? Like I don't like look around like at a start line like I don't belong here. What the heck?
Yeah.
You ever?
Yeah, I mean, initially when I was getting into the sport, I felt that way. Uh,
Yeah.
really felt that way. Um, and East Coast Adventures was really ultimately the group that really kind of pulled me out of that. Initially, I really didn't feel like I belonged to the East Coast Adventures just because um, they are so. I mean, they operate as a family, and it wasn't until I realized that I could be part of that family that I realized that this was my place. It wasn't
Mhm.
until I felt a part of that community and that part of that family that I felt like I was home. So, um, imposter syndrome, not so much. Um,
Yeah.
I'm also not fast like you, so.
It's all relative, my friend. Yeah.
Not yet, Micah. Not
Not
yet.
Not,
yet.
yeah.
No, good questions, Chris. What else you got? You're doing good. Keep going.
Gosh, I'm working on this out past 2 hours. We're
Oh, don't worry. We still got a whole list of
Oh
questions
yeah, I got
from
questions
Matt that
from
he's got to do. But
three
I,
different places.
I guess one thing.
give us one more question, Chris. Give us one more good question.
Well, it's not so much a question. Is it like a statement on that? Hey, you belong, kind of feeling. I think that a lot of runners they show up to a start line. I was talking with someone this last week about it. I was like, kind of like you feel like you don't belong in the community. You stand at the start line, you look around like, what the heck, you know? And I guess I just want to like more of a statement. Like we've all been there. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been there where I like look around and I look at all these runners like I'm not one of these people. You know what I mean? Like I don't fit in, and I'd say it's just like a statement is that you do belong, and that if you're feeling that you're not alone, and we all have these feelings of doubt and maybe like not belonging, but I don't know. I guess it's just more of a statement of welcoming others. And
Well, and there's always going to be your very first time going to an event or going to a race, guys. It's okay. You're always going to feel like you don't belong
Yeah.
your first time. But
mm-hmm.
man, I can't stress enough the reward that you get for finding that right group that you will fit in with.
Yeah.
So please do it. If there's a
Mm-hmm.
running community around you, if there's a group around you, it may take you 2 or 3 to find one, but it is so worth it. Do it.
And I will say, there are two communities that I am a part of. Obviously, East Coast Adventures, but I also every year volunteer with a group called Dirty Bird Events, who used to be the race owners for um, um,
The Derek Circuit.
their
Dirt Circuit.
circuit. Sorry, I'm
Yes.
getting there. But before I ran either of your guys' races, the first thing I did was I volunteered at a race. I volunteered and got connected from that side before I ever ran a race. And I continue. I don't run. I don't run 30 bird events but I volunteer for them every race because I want to assist them and be part of their community.
I mean, they're great people.
They are great people. So I will say, if you are feeling that way, go volunteer. Go give back. Go to a race and help out. Build that community. It's the best way to get to know people and get connected into community is to see the race from that side. Help out at an aid station. Help out with registration. Help out. Even if you are racing the race, go an hour early and help with event check-in. It's crucial. It's needed. And it's a great way to talk to the race directors and get plugged in with people and to get connected. And it's important and it's needed. And it worked for me, so obviously do
it. I know it's great advice, and that was a good segue and question, Chris, because it's so important, and especially today, because if you look at the stats anymore, outdoor camping and stuff like that, the numbers just keep getting worse and worse as far as the younger generation getting out and doing stuff like that. And I just can't stress enough how important it is to be in a community where you get to actually be social and hang out with people and get to talk to them and share your problems, your thoughts, your just the camaraderie. It is so important mentally. Forget the physical benefits of going out and hanging out with people and doing the trail running or the road running, whatever it is you're doing. But the benefit you get of being able to have a mental break and to feel like you belong somewhere, guys, that's priceless. That's what life's about. That's what we're all looking for, is a place to belong and a place to treat each other good and someone that's going to be kind to you. And, it's, you gotta try to find it and find your home.
Absolutely.
Good question, Chris. Love it. Good answer, Micah. And like Micah said, it worked for him. So obviously take his advice.
Definitely do it.
If you volunteer at the East Coast Adventures, David will give you a hug.
Guaranteed. David is a hugger. Everybody gets a hug. It is well known in the running community. 90% of the pictures I'm in, I'm hugging somebody.
That is true. It is true.
One picture of this of you doing like a little butt bump thing.
Oh yeah, me and Marsh is dancing.
Shots.
I had a lot of shots that day, Chris. I did stop early so that I could run with you at night, though. I did do that. All right, Mr. Williams, if you have not lost this list, let's hear some
there
questions.
are 3 or 4 different sections here. I'm having to flip back and forth. They're everywhere today.
Oh, we're going to be here for an hour. It's 2.5 hour podcast again, Mike.
Oh, here we go. Let's rock and roll.
I tell you.
So this one is for Chris. Have you always been fast, or did you work up at it and build it up?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I'd call myself fast.
Okay, let me say something right here. Because I know Chris is going to say he's not fast and whatever. But in April or March of 2023, he ran pistol in almost 19 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 20 of 24, he ran it in 14 hours, 1 minute and 32 seconds. So what does that tell you?
He's fast.
It's been a process for sure, Yeah. I think my slowest 100 was 31 and some change. Maybe.
Do you think it's the training or the mental aspect? Like, what has helped you the most? Was there a trigger?
Oh gosh, it's a combination of all sorts of things. Training, building the aerobic conditioning really, really well. And that's been over the course of years and years and years, right? On and off, and then more consistently recently. It's that. It's locking nutrition in better. It's the strategy of pacing the hundreds. Nutrition. Tons of stuff. I think at the core, though, it's probably I don't know, probably 70% just training. Higher volume for me has worked, I think, quite a bit. Yeah, but it's been kind of just gradual. But I've seen my my pace increase, and then also just like in terms of training, just dropping some weight, just leaning up some. That's made an impact too, in different ways. But it's a lot of things.
But Chris, to my point, you dropped almost 4 hours off your 100-miler in a year.
In a year.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
And
but
18 hours isn't a slow time either.
No.
to Chris's defense, though, he used to have a bigger beard.
Yeah.
Throw it out, Chris. Throw it out.
Yeah. Pistol last year, I had a couple challenges on that particular race. I went out too fast for my conditioning. I had some weird asthma-induced allergy thing that popped up that it was the first time it ever happened to me. And I was like, I started wheezing halfway, like about 30 miles in, I started just like having a hard time breathing and wheezing. I thought it was like cold or something. So I had Mary get me some Dayquil, and that kind of helped some. But yeah, it's several things for sure. But that one, yeah.
And that's a good point. Like, if you don't know your pace,
Yep.
Yeah.
if you do all of your training runs at a 9.5 minute pace,
Yeah.
and you start the 100-miler at 8, then you've screwed up. Like, it's not going to go good. And I see it all the time. I've been wanting to do it. So, like, we all learn too. Like, if your training is a 9-minute pace or an 8.5 minute pace, and you've been training like that all year, and you start a 100-mile race or even a 50-mile race, and you start at 7, guys, it's probably not going to go very well, and we've all been there. So I think some of, getting faster is learning to get slower by, understanding your pace.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've all been there.
Yep. For sure.
Send it. This one is for Micah. During your 100-miler, did sleep become an issue? If so, how did you overcome it?
No.
No, he's got kids. He stays up all the time.
No, I actually don't. It's kind of weird. I have a hard time with sleep. I probably get about 10 hours a night.
10 hours a night of sleep?
You sleep 10 hours a night?
Yes, and it's not enough. I need lots of sleep. But the last 2 overnight runs I've done, I haven't had any issues with sleep. I haven't wanted to sleep.
10 hours of sleep a night?
I know.
Micah, that sounds amazing.
You sleep for 10 hours?
Yeah, I'll go to bed by 10 and I'll wake up at 8:30 tomorrow.
What time do you got to go to work?
Well, whenever.
Micah?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm jealous.
No kidding.
I'm so jealous.
I'm like 4.5, 5 hours. If it's like a miracle, it's 6.
Yeah,
wow.
So I do need lots of sleep, but not what I've run.
No, because you got like a billion hours built up. 10 hours. I mean, you got a bank of sleep in there.
It's okay, Matt. Be jealous.
Matt is very jealous. It's coming out of his beard right now.
Well, like last night, my Whoop said I had like 5 hours and 33 minutes, and I said my sleep increased. I'm like, yeah, it probably did. All right, this one is for Chris. What advice would you give Micah when you think back to what you've learned after your first 100-miler?
Ooh, I like this question.
What advice would I give Micah? So let me understand the question. So,
what advice would you give Micah going back to your very first 100-miler?
Mm-hmm.
From here on out, or from beforehand?
No, like his very first 100-miler. Like, what did he learn that he would have gave you advice for?
Oh gosh, I'd say the why I highlighted on that. I hit the why. That's important. Making sure you have a good, clear why going into a race. Making sure you're as trained as you can be for the race. put together a training plan, whatever training plan feels appropriate. I mean, there's so many different approaches to that. And then,
Where do I go from here, Chris?
where do you go from your first 100? You gotta go Ball State for sure. This week, 14 miles.
Need to get Morgan in on that one. Good luck.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me show you the map, Micah.
You start in Missouri, then you go through Kentucky, and then you come all the way across. You go through Alabama, and then you finish in Georgia. It's great.
It's so nice. Armadillo smell good too.
Oh,
Oh yeah, the roadkill. It's like supper on the highway. It's awesome.
And I'll interject an answer here for that question too. For everybody that hears the 100-miler is 80% mental and 20% physical, it's a lie.
Mm-hmm. It's a lie.
Do not think that you can go run 20 miles a week and go successfully do a 100-miler. You got to put the work in. It is just as much mental as it is physical, but if you're not physically fit, and I'm not saying fit like, running.
What will happen is
I'm just saying fit as far as exercise and aerobic conditioning, because if you don't set yourself up for success, you're going to fail.
That and if your mind doesn't fail, your body will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it this way: like, if it is 20% physical and 80% mental, great. Then why would you even want to try to not be physically fit to help increase those odds even more? But the truth is, if you're not fit enough to do it, like you've not been conditioned to train and run at least 40 or 50 miles a week at some point, that's a decent amount of mileage to try to finish 100 miles, as long as you're planning on just finishing and not trying to break any records. But if you don't do that, you're not setting yourself up for success, and you're up for something that's going to be super challenging. You may do it, but it's going to be so much harder on you.
That, and also, but just even doing the training, just going through the mental challenges of just doing the training, the long runs, that process, you learn the process, and it needs to happen. If you don't practice your brain, you don't use your brain properly, it's then your mind's going to fail too. I mean, you got to be able to practice both in order to effectively do it. So listening to David Goggins and running 100 miles will not work.
Who's going to carry the boat?
Hey, he said you got to put in the work.
And the Sour Patch Kids.
You got to get out there.
Oh, I will say, little caveat. 2 different times I had Marsha and Brandon Johnson both take Sour Patch Kids out on the trail and say to me, make sure you tell Chris these things suck, because they threw them all together. Come on, running. Not a fan.
Oh,
Not a
man.
fan.
I literally have 3-pound bags of Sour Patch Kids in my cabinets in there. That
those little $1 packs you buy at the grocery store?
Mm-hmm.
I think Brandon brought like 10 of those, and he hates them.
He hates them
because he brought them because Chris told him to.
Whatever can, just whatever simple sugar is good. Doesn't have to be sour.
Man, you give me gummy bears or Sour Patch Kids, and I'm good to go.
Oh, they're delicious.
Good to go.
It's like you're a kid again.
I crave them so much after a race too.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I crave Coke after a race. Give me a whole 2-liter.
Yeah, me too.
All right, this one is for both of you guys. What were your thoughts while crossing the finish line? Chris, you can go first.
I mean, just excitement, Felt really good crossing that finish line, and it was just that shared excitement. Having Compton there, having Emmanuel there, having everybody, Brian, Gordon, my family. It was just excitement. It was elation, I guess. Every 100.
You could see it in the pictures that they took. You were definitely excited. It was awesome to see.
You look pretty excited.
I was stoked. Yeah. I was stoked. The only thing that would have made it better is if I had a Brewster's ice cream cone in my hand.
Hey, like at one point when you're going back, your wife Mary said, he thinks he's going to get done in time to go get ice cream. I'm like, yeah, well, what time do they close? She tells me the time. I'm like, well, I guess he'll make it then. And then
Yeah. 13 hours and some change would definitely. Yeah, it was Brewster's closing time was 14 hours. So.
You ended up with Culver's, didn't you?
Yeah, it was good though. It was good. Yeah.
I love that Stayman's also wearing a hat that says donut.
he's going to change his Instagram name to the Donut Runner.
Yeah, we need to get him a sponsorship. We need to get him hooked up with Richie Cream. Get him a sponsor.
Yep.
Find somebody.
Look out, Brewster's got Richie Cream coming for me.
Yeah.
Sponsor, give me the free waffle cones.
Chris needs Brewster's and I need Burger King, and we'll be good to go.
We'll send out some emails tomorrow saying we need sponsorships for a couple of our runners.
I will run for donuts.
All right, Mr. Micah.
Gratitude. Immense gratitude. And relief.
I bet there's a lot of relief.
I bet there was. That moment of not having to do it again, like to be done. That's a pretty damn good feeling. To
It really
get
is.
to go
That lasts about 2 minutes until you realize you can't do it anymore anyway because your leg sees up. You're keeled over.
You know what gets stuck in my head in a long race, like the last 10 miles? A shower. That's all I think about. Is like, I can't wait to take a hot shower.
For me,
that's like for you, what?
Brushing my teeth.
Brushing your teeth.
Brushing my teeth.
Mine is going to sleep.
Going to sleep?
Mine is like, I just want to go to sleep.
I did not sleep on Sunday till 7 o'clock.
Do I?
I could not go to sleep on Sunday until 7 o'clock.
Was the adrenaline still pumping?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't sleep.
Oh, as soon as I'll sit down after my races, I'm like, out. I'm done with this. Hey, coming back from Vol State, Brittany drove my truck back. And we're on that interstate, and I'm dead asleep. Any little bump she hit, I was waking up in a panic. Like, I was scared to death. I did not know what was going on. And she was getting aggravated with me because I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm driving. It's a bridge. I'm like, oh, go back to sleep. She hit another one. I wake up. I'm like, just go to sleep. Stay. I'm fine. Okay. But yeah, sleep. That's what I'll look forward to after a race.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also for both of you guys. What advice, after you've done these 100-milers, what advice do you have for someone who is training for their first 100-miler? Micah?
Try to have fun. Try not to be so invested in it that you ruin the experience. Try to just have fun, stay in the moment, enjoy it. Understand that it's not just about the race, it's about everything leading up to the race, the experience of the race. And then when you're done with the race, give yourself time to process. As I am learning right now, process.
Chris?
Gosh, I'm thinking about my first training, my first 100 block. Some of the long runs felt excruciatingly long, and sometimes I was so beat up afterward. I felt so tired, or I'd hit balls mid-run. And yeah, I'd second what Micah said and have fun with it as much as you can. If you need to come up with creative ways to make it a little more tolerable, do that. That might be finding somewhere, like a place to stop along the way and get a treat. I mean, I'll do that with like stopping for donuts or ice cream, and just realize that that's the foundation that you're building for the race, and the race is just kind of a celebration of the training you put in. And the harder you work on the training and the smarter you work on the training, the better the outcome's going to be, and then it's the better celebration of it all. And just realize that those walls, you're going to hit walls in training, and those are just kind of trials that kind of build your resilience to face those walls on race day.
Good answers, guys.
Yep.
Good answers.
All right. How do you get through the difficult moments during your race? When did it get hard for you, Micah, on your first 100-mile race?
I think the biggest thing was when I was going into it, I felt like based on my training, I could feel good for the first 50. And when I felt poor after 10, I really had to reevaluate what kind of day I was going to have. Not if I was going to complete it or anything along those lines, but just what my experience was going to be like.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be a literal walk in the park. It was going to be a different kind of experience, and I just had to come to grips with that and roll with it. So there's that. And then that was a challenging point. And then I think the other parts were just really coming to grips with my why I was out there, evaluating my why in general, just second guessing myself, questioning myself, and then rolling that into just immense gratitude for the sacrifices that I've been able to make due to being able to stay healthy, the sacrifices and commitment that my family makes, that Morgan, my wife, makes on a daily basis, my community, my crew, Brandon and Marcia both committed a huge amount of time and energy in terms of helping me train and race day and all those good things, and I had a commitment to them. And then I also made a commitment publicly to you guys to give it everything I got. So I had to do that. And so once I remembered that and reminded myself of that, it was just a matter of fulfilling those promises. So if you're running your first 100 miler, if you actually want to accomplish it, make those promises.
Good. All right. Chris, how did you keep yourself on pace even when it started to hurt?
Gosh, I mean, finding the pace that felt right and just kind of trusting the process and setting the right pace to begin with. And then it doesn't hurt as bad when you set that pace right to start with.
Yep.
That's, I guess, the first part. And then the other part's just living mile by mile. And sometimes there might be times when you just feel like a little mental, like you want to just drift a little bit and let go, and you just have to hold yourself to a mile, just every single mile. And if you pace it right and you train right leading into it, it locks and it clicks. But I think we've all been there where the wheels fall off, and those legs won't turn over. And sometimes, you just have to figure out what the pace is. It's right, so you don't blow up. That's the first part. And then the second part is if sometimes there's a mental component, and you just have to turn those legs over and get it built. But there's other times when those wheels fall off and you're grinding on the axles, barking as you drag down the road.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yep. All right, we have two more questions, one for Micah and one for Chris. Chris, your pace was very consistent through each split. Did he ever use the porta potty, or did he just run and go?
I did. I had to use the porta potty a couple times. Yeah, some stomach issues, but there was one point, and that might have been one of the darker points in the race. There's a point where I want to say 40 miles in, my stomach got upset. I hit the porta potty, and so I let Brian just say, "Hey, go for it." He's like, "Yeah, I'll kind of go slower or whatever." But he was ahead, and I kind of thought, okay, well, he just broke ahead, and so I kind of had to pull myself back up from that. So I think coming out of that, I was running mid-7s for a while to catch back up to him. But yeah, does that answer? Was the question specific? Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Stop.
All right, Micah. Last question for you. What mental hurdle did you find most complicated, and how did you get past it?
Um, think for me, it was when I really realized I wasn't having fun, and that I wasn't going to have fun, but that I had to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a job.
Sometimes the fun's not there, but you just got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Especially if you want that 100-mile buckle.
It's a lot of work for a piece of freaking metal.
You could have ordered it on Amazon.
Yeah, it is.
It's
You don't get that same feeling of accomplishment, though.
It's a symbol of the experience. That's all it is.
You live a whole life in a day.
You sure do. Multiple lives in a day.
Well, guys, I want to say thank you for doing this. And I know this was a little different having two people talk about 100 milers, but I just thought it would be really interesting to see both perspectives from someone who's trying to break a course record to someone and a state record to someone who's doing their very first 100 miler and the training that went into it, the emotion that went into it, the feelings, and, you know, also just the similarities to that. And also you can see, like with Stayman, where he's ran multiple 100 milers, and he talks about, like in the pistol, where he didn't have a lot of low moments. But, you know, that wasn't the case in his first 100 milers. We all have those low moments, guys. So as you get, you know, further in depth in running these longer races, if you have that desire to want to, you do get better at understanding that and dealing with that and working through it. And it's your first one's always going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not always finish your first one. You may not finish your second one, but you learn something from each one. So don't ever let that discourage you. And I just want to say thank you to both, and congratulations to both of you. We're very honored to have you both on the East Coast Adventures team, and also just to have you as part of the East Coast Adventures family, and to be there. You know, Chris, the almost the whole team come out at some point at East Coast Adventures tent at the Pistol to work or to see you or to pace you. And, you know, that's the stuff that it's about. That's the community. And Micah, I mean, the East Coast Adventures team was there to help you. You know, Brandon and Marcia, they're there. And, you know, Marcia has become just an absolute advocate for the team and a rock star crew person. Like, she has helped so much, and she is so involved. And Marcia, just kudos to you for what you're doing. You go above and beyond. And, you know, you're the type of person that we want to have on this team, that is always there pushing and helping people and encouraging them. You know, I say this a lot, and it's true for anybody that's truly done it, but when you're crewing somebody, it's just as much work or more work than running, because you're constantly doing stuff for that person. And you're up just as long as they are, if not longer, because you have to be ready for them, and you are their emotional mirror, you know, like they're bouncing everything off of you, and it's all on you to respond and to get them out of that hole or that issue they're dealing with. And it can be a lot, especially when you're crewing multiple people. So kudos to everything that you do in the community, Marcia. And Brandon, same to you. Thank you for helping so much and being there for Micah. And the race didn't go your way, but you pulled everything together to come back out there and pace Micah in the end and help him finish, you know, to see him through. And I mean, that's what it's about. And I just want to say that one more time. Like, if you've not found the community that you belong in, keep looking, guys. It's worth it to keep looking.
Yeah.
And when you find it, you'll know it. I mean, it will click. And if you haven't found it, then come see us or come see some groups around us if you're local. If not, just start going. Like Micah said, you don't have to run. Volunteer. Go find a group. You might just find a way to change your life in a good way. Chris, Micah, one last time, congratulations to both of you.
Yeah.
Chris, congratulations on a brand new state record. Micah, congratulations on your first 100-mile buckle.
Woo!
Congrats, Micah. Huge accomplishment.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
Proud of you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.